The convention will commence in 6 minutes. Six minutes. 6-minute warning. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our program, please join me in a round of applause for Rick Pedro at the keyboard. The convention will come to order. Please stand and join me in rendering the proper salute to the flag of the United States of America. On my count, 1, 2. For the invocation, I call on National Chaplain Daniel Mark Antel, Sr. of North Dakota.
Sorry for the delay. Got to shake hands this morning. Would you please join me as we pray? From Psalm 34, I will extol the Lord at all times. His praise will be on my lips. I will glory in the Lord. Let the afflicted hear and rejoice. Glorify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame. This poor man called, and the Lord heard him, and he saved him out of all his trouble. Eternal, almighty, gracious God, you are above and beyond all, more than worthy of all our praise. As we spend this last morning at the 104th American Legion Convention, help us to stay alert, to learn, and then carry home to our local posts the knowledge and spirit of comradeship we have received in this past week. Thank you for gifting all our national officers with the wisdom and words of leadership. We humbly pray for men and women who will begin their term of service today. We acknowledge the countless legionnaires, auxiliary, sons of the American Legion, and Legion riders who step up for roles of leadership and dedicated service. As we seek to do every day, we pray for the brave men and women of our uniformed armed forces. Protect them from all harm and every enemy, seen and unseen. To you, O Lord, belong all glory and honor. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain uncovered as National Sergeant at Arms Michael Burns of New York leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Michael. Please cover. The convention is now in session. You may be seated. I'd like to begin by announcing that after yesterday's fireside chat about veteran suicide, you generously passed a hat as a collection for Mark Tangi's medical bills. The amount raised was not just $6,000, it was $6,001. I promise you that we did not add the one, it just came out that way. Your wonderful generosity is appreciated. With those people having donations to OCW or any other Legion charity, please assemble behind the stage. We begin this morning by recognizing outstanding achievement in journalism that had a positive impact on a community. The American Legion Fourth State Award is difficult to earn. It is a testament to the demanding nature of the competition and the quality of entries. Not only do the reports have to be informative and entertaining, they also have to provide a tangible benefit to society. Our fourth state winner for broadcast is a previous winner who really wanted and planned to be here this morning. But like any good news reporter, he has to be where the news requires him to be. He is currently in his home city of Tampa covering the hurricane. First, a little bit about his award-winning work. Imagine it's early 2022 and you fly to Florida to take a cruise or enjoy a family vacation. You want the assurance of a COVID test so you don't expose others. You see a pop-up clinic promising instant results and pay a couple of $100s for that assurance. There were major problems with people who lived that scenario, as reported by ABC Action News I-Team in Tampa. Please turn your attention to the video monitors.
Greetings from Tampa, Florida. I'm so sorry I can't be with you there in Charlotte. It's only about 40 miles south of my hometown, but unfortunately Hurricane Idalia got in the way. Now we're here at American Legion Post 138 during the calm before the storm. This is one of the best posts you'll find as far as the view's concerned, and you'll have to check it out when you're here for your convention in just 2 years. Now we're honored this is the second time that the ABC Action News I-Team has won the coveted Fourth Estate Award from the American Legion. During a surge in new COVID cases in early 2022, we uncovered how poorly prepared the Florida Department of Health and the FDA were when it came to monitoring testing. We uncovered bogus COVID testing centers popping up throughout Florida, charging taxpayers millions of dollars, harvesting patients' personal information, and putting the public health at risk by providing inaccurate results. A national testing company we reported about is currently under federal investigation, and a local clinic shut down amid our findings that the owner never even had necessary approval to perform tests that she was offering. I'd like to thank photojournalist Matt McGlashan and executive producer Melanie Payne for their hard work on this series. I'd also like to thank our news director, Sarah Moore, our assistant news director, Mark Zonka, and our general manager, Nick Nicholson, as well as our parent company, Scripps, for their dedication to investigative journalism. At a time when local journalism is in crisis in many places, it's important to have the support of the American Legion and its members, because without watchdog journalism, we risk losing the many freedoms and way of life that your members have fought so hard for so many years. I'm Adam Walser, an investigative reporter for ABC Action News in Tampa, Florida. We're the proud home of MacDill Air Force Base, and the Sunshine State has the second highest American Legion membership, with nearly 100,000 Legionnaires. While the COVID pandemic may seem like old news now, in early 2022, we were seeing a huge spike in new cases, and with that came a high demand for PCR testing, considered the gold standard in identifying infections. People needed these tests to take trips or return to work. But the I-Team found some unscrupulous operators were charging big bucks for bogus tests, putting people's health at risk and even using their personal information to steal their identities.
We had to take a picture of our driver's license.
Soon after registering, she got an email with her test results.
We were still in line waiting to be tested. We hadn't been swabbed yet. We hadn't gotten up to the gentleman to be tested, and we had already received an email stating that we were negative for COVID.
Her husband, her 3 children, and 3 other people in line all received emails saying they tested negative. The sign out front advertised rapid PCR test, results in 15 minutes. Was there anything unusual about the clinic?
There was a dog there.
The dog belongs to licensed nurse practitioner Tracy Green, who owns the business.
He said, "Oh, we'll get you right in and out so you don't miss your flight."
Paul says Green swabbed his nose and took the sample to another room.
7 minutes later, she said, "Let me check it." So she went back there and she said, That's fine.
University of Tampa biochemistry professor Dr. Scott Witherow says PCR tests are too complicated to get results that quickly.
The genetic material in the virus is amplified in each cycle. That genetic material doubles. So you can start with one copy of that, and then through about 30 cycles, you have 1 billion copies of that.
The manual for the fastest PCR test on the market says samples are collected, labeled, and placed in a chemical agent. Then the solution is introduced onto a cassette, which is placed in a machine that performs dozens of uninterrupted cycles. I went to Remedies to check for myself how fast I could get results from a PCR test, paying $125. Green showed up without a mask or gloves, quickly swabbed my nostrils, and didn't ask for an ID. 27 minutes later, she called to say my COVID test was negative.
None of the devices or instruments or protocols or techniques that I've seen have been able to do that using PCR.
We're just curious about the PCR test. Everyone has told us that it's pretty hard to do one in less than a half hour.
Well, it's not, because I have a lab. I bought
Okay.
the equipment and I have a lab in there. I don't have to send it out.
Can we see the lab?
No, you can't.
It says 15-minute rapid PCR test. And
Well, there
there's
should be a
none.
comma.
When we returned the next day, the word "and" was written between rapid and PCR.
People who were positive could have gotten on a flight and flown and maybe infected other people.
Ladies and gentlemen, though they are not physically here, let's acknowledge the great work of our 2023 Fourth Estate Award for Broadcast, WFTS-TV, and Adam Walzer. We will send them their well-deserved award. One of the most significant victories for the American Legion and veterans everywhere was the passage and signing of the PACT Act last year. Leading the way in coverage about the harmful effects of burn pits and other toxic exposures impacting veterans was the Military Times. Deputy Editor Leo Shane authored much of the coverage about these exposures and the latest developments in Congress and the White House. Let's take a look at this award-winning work.
Last summer, landmark legislation passed ensuring care and compensation to generations of veterans who were exposed to toxic substances.
What this would do is it would make it easier for them to apply for both disability benefits, get money back for their wounds, and also get more care at VA hospitals.
The process to pass the PACT Act wasn't easy, with the bill being blocked in the Senate on the first try.
So veterans staged a weeks-long protest out here, 24 hours, standing out here and telling Republicans, telling lawmakers this was an urgent need to get passed. I hopped in my car, rushed out here to just get the story from them, to meet them. It was a nice light rain. It was a pretty miserable night for them, but it worked. It got their message out. We helped relay their message to the rest of the world. We've been covering this for 15 years. The issue of burn pits was one that the Military Times broke back in 2008, thanks to Kelly Kennedy's great work.
I was in Iraq covering health issues, and I'd seen the Balad burn pit.
After Kelly returned from Iraq, veteran Dan Clare made her aware of a memo warning of the deadly dangers of burn pits.
And he'd hit a bunch of other reporters with it, and no one took it. I think they figured that the military wouldn't do something harmful. So we went ahead and ran with it after Dan sent us the memo.
Leo covered the issue in Washington, D.C., and pressed leaders for answers.
How do you move this along at an even faster pace so that they're not waiting 5 years, 6 years for the next big step forward?
I feel intense urgency to move on this.
People like Leo, the Military Times, have really seen to it that the coverage is there day in and day out, year in and year out, for many decades now.
You know, he writes a story, and then everybody else across the nation picks up on that story.
To have Leo on the beat means that readers are getting someone who's keeping everyone honest, that they're that he's watching VA, he's watching Congress, and making sure that veterans know, hey, this was promised in the bill. Is it being delivered? Or, hey, they had talked about this much money over 10 years. Is that still going to be the case? It's very easy, especially when we're talking about these big chunks of money, to kind of think of it as a very abstract idea, but I think Leo does a great job of showing exactly what it's going to mean for veterans across the country.
I hope that our coverage is helping improve lives. I hope more veterans are aware of the illnesses that they could face, the dangers that are out there from their time in the military, the exposures they might have suffered, and I hope they can go and use that to not only get the care they need, but pressure VA into providing even more care for them.
Please welcome our 2023 Fourth Estate Award winner for print journalism, Leo Shane.
Well, thank you all very much. I do have some bad news before I start off. I do not have any videos of me with Tom Cruise up in a fighter jet, so I don't want to disappoint everyone first thing in the morning. The good news is that I usually only write a few hundred words when I write stories, so I will keep this brief. I won't delay things too much. Thank you to the American Legion for this award. I'm flattered to be included among the exemplary journalists who've earned the Fourth Estate Award, including my colleague Adam, who unfortunately couldn't be here. And I'm just as flattered this week to be able to talk to the veterans here. Just flattered by the number of veterans who have come up to me and said that they're regular readers of my work and regular readers of Military Times. You know, it's not always easy to see the impact of your work when you're writing and you're not engaging with folks all over the country face to face. So it means a lot to be able to see that we are affecting and helping the individuals we serve. I'm not a veteran. I've always been struck by the generosity of the veterans community in patiently teaching me the issues that are closest to you and the stories that need to be out there. Sometimes very patiently, as your Washington, D.C. staff can tell you. They've got to really walk me through a couple of these things. So I hope I've lived up to their expectations in that work, and I hope I've been able to really share your stories. Covering the PACT Act and the issue of burn pit injuries has been a years-long process for Military Times, dating back to Kelly Kennedy's great work in 2008 and her really bringing this to light. Over the years, reporters like Patricia Keim have kept that work going, and I get to stand here today and accept this award for Military Times, thanks to those years of dedication and the years of exemplary work that they've done. I'd like to thank my editor-in-chief, Mike Roos, for having faith in me to write as much as I could on this topic last year, even before it became evident this was going to become what it became. I think early on, I just had a hunch that this time felt different, that finally we might see something with burn pits. We might actually see some real action on the larger issue of toxic exposure in the military, and not simply the half measures that we had seen. So. I've been fortunate to work at two great newspapers in my career in Washington, Military Times and Stars and Stripes. I've had the opportunity to serve troops in the military at both, and I've had the opportunity to work with reporters who are really dedicated to telling the stories of both of those communities, really getting into the story, really representing to the rest of the country what they're missing when they don't know what's going on with troops, with veterans, with military families. And I'm looking forward to next year when I'm sure you're going to hear from another one of my colleagues for their great work for this award. Thank you to my wife, who couldn't be here today, but has heard way too much about the PACT Act over the last 2 years or so, to the point where I think she thinks we might be getting some benefits. We are not. And thank you to my son and daughter, who've been exceedingly polite as I talk about this stuff over the dinner table and ask me why I only talk about boring stuff on TV and when I go places. I don't have a great answer for them. But I do love my work. I do love being able to tell veteran stories. I love being able to share the stories with the rest of the country. And I like being able to let you all know what is going on in Washington, what is going on, how you're being helped, and where the country's falling short. And I plan on doing this as long as I can, and as long as you all keep sharing your stories with me. So thank you very much.
Our Veterans and Children Foundation continues to make a substantial difference in the lives of thousands of Americans in need. The assistance provided by this great foundation would not be possible without the extraordinary generosity of those belonging to the 1919 Society. I now call on past National Commander Denise H. Rowan of Wisconsin for a very special presentation.
Thank you, Commander. Good morning, officers, legionnaires, guests. I am excited to be here to talk with you about the American Legion Endowment Fund, better known as the Veterans and Children's Foundation, or VCF. But before I really get into what I'm going to talk about, I would ask that the members of the 1919 Society please make your way to the front of the convention hall and gather here in front of the stage. And I'm going to keep talking. So, while they move forward, let me tell you a little bit about the Veterans and Children's Foundation and how the earnings from this fund are used exclusively to support programs of the Veterans Affairs and Rehabilitation Commission, including service officer training and the Temporary Financial Assistance Program, TFA. The Temporary Financial Assistance Program gives grants to military and veterans families with minor children in their homes when they are experiencing an unexpected hardship. You may have heard about how this fund was used to give more than $1 million worth of TFA grants to members of the Coast Guard during a government shutdown in 2019. The VCF also funds training for our veteran service officers. Our American Legion service officers provide expert, free of charge assistance to veterans and their families as they try to understand the process of filing for and receiving the government benefits that they earned through their service to our nation. Through an arrangement with a top-notch law firm, close to $500,000 is spent each year in Department Service Officer training, materials and certifications, regional office site visits, and representing veterans before the Court of Appeals for veterans claims. We also have 3 national teams handling nothing but appeals. If it wasn't for our teams appealing those claims, 80% of the veterans who had claims denied would have stayed denied. During the Fall National Executive Committee meeting in both 2018 and 2019, the NEC approved a resolution stating the American Legion Endowment Fund Corporation would engage in a $25 million financial campaign doing business as the Veterans and Children's Foundation. A plan to accomplish this objective was approved by the NEC during the fall of 2020 meeting. The plan included departmental goals of 25 cents per member each year over a 7-year period. I'll say that again, 25 cents per member each year over a 7-year period. As departments met their goals, specifically designed urns are placed on the desk of your NEC in the NEC room. Coming into convention, the following departments have met or exceeded their 7-year goals: the Department of Alaska, Delaware, France, Hawaii, Kansas, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Missouri, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Virginia, and Wyoming. Congratulations to those 13 departments. An additional 16 departments are over halfway to their goal. During a virtual NEC meeting in 2020, the creation of a 1919 donor society was discussed and approved. Further work was done to move the plan forward, and in May of 2022, the NEC passed Resolution Number 6 entitled Creation of the American Legion 1919 Society. Over the last several days, you should have noticed the screens in the convention center scrolling the names of the members of the 1919 Society. And hopefully, thanks to the commander who reminded us often, you may have stopped by the booth, the 1919 Society booth, in the back of the convention hall in the last couple days. Now, to become a member of the 1919 Society, donors must contribute a gift of $1,000 or more. The society consists of 4 membership levels based on the amount donated. Bronze, for a gift of $1,000 to $2,499. Silver, for gifts of $2,500 to $4,999. Gold, for the gift of $5,000 to $9,999. And platinum, for a gift of $10,000 or more. Each donor's name are added to a specially designed 1919 Society wall, which is located outside of the endowment room on the 3rd floor of our national headquarters in Indianapolis. These donors' legacies will live on for many years to come. I would now ask that National Commander, I almost said past National Commander, oh my God. National Commander Triola and the President of the Endowment Fund, the Honorable Vincent Gahn, please come forward. We are excited to officially induct our National Commander into the 1919 Society and thank him for his generous donation of $1,000 a month for the last 12 months. President Gahn will be presenting the commander with his 1919 Society regalia while I read the names of our newest Platinum and Gold 1919 Society members. The following members were inducted into the 1919 Society earlier this week for donations that were made between June 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2023. Our platinum donors, donors of $10,000 or more: Kurt Logensog from Michigan, sorry if I messed your name up, from Michigan. The American Legion Post 62 from Washington. James E. Chapin from the Department of Wisconsin. The American Legion Department of Missouri. Our National Commander.
Here I am.
There, all right, good job. Vincent Triola, thank you. The American Legion Department of New Jersey, the American Legion Department of Oregon, the American Legion Department of Arizona, James B. Watson from Texas, Community Charities of Minnesota, the American Legion Department of Massachusetts, American Legion Post 337 in the Department of Massachusetts, Corey E. Brockman from the Department of Oregon, American Legion Auxiliary, Department of Minnesota, SAL, Detachment of Massachusetts, in honor of past National Commander Clifford Smith, the American Legion Department of Minnesota, SAL Squadron 180, Department of Oregon, Daniel and Stacy Seehafer from the Department of Wisconsin, the American Legion Department of France, and Walter Ivy from the Department of Texas. Thank you. Our gold level donors of $5,000 up to $9,999 are the American Legion Department of Kentucky, the American Legion Department of Ohio, the American Legion Department of Maryland, Minnesota American Legion Foundation, the American Legion Department of Georgia, Joseph Zephyr from Wisconsin, American Legion Post 964 from the Department of Illinois, American Legion Department of Nevada, the American Legion Post 4 in the Department of Massachusetts, the American Legion Department of Delaware, the American Legion Department of South Dakota, the American Legion Department of Oklahoma, American Legion Post 327 from the Department of Virginia. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you all for your generosity and for making a difference in the lives of our veterans, their children, and their families. If you are, and you guys can stay here as long as you want to or whatever. Feel free to stay though. If you are interested in learning more about the Veterans and Children's Foundation, you can go to www.legion.org/VCF, where you can download a toolkit to use when promoting this program. And while you're at that site, you will also find a link with more information about how to become a member of the 1919 Society. I believe by assisting veterans to get the benefits that they earned and giving them a hand up when their family is in need, we will be instrumental in reducing and hopefully eliminating veteran suicide in this nation. As leaders of this organization, we need your help. We need your voice. You need to bring awareness to this wonderful fundraising campaign. When you get home and someone asks you what's new at National, you can tell them that you learned how we can all be doing our part to eliminate veteran suicide by giving our veterans hope through your donations to the Veterans and Children Foundation. Make sure to mark your donations to VCF. Thank you.
If anyone has donations for Operation Comfort Warriors or any other Legion charities, I will now accept those on stage. Those presenting checks should proceed to the microphone, announce the amount and the donor. Then go to the front on the floor, over here, for a photograph. I now ask National Vice Commander Paul Kennedy to assume the lectern.
Morning. On behalf of China Post 1 of the American Legion, we're pleased to present a check for $1,000 to Operation Comfort Warrior.
Department of Tennessee donates $2,400 to Operation Comfort Warrior.
Good morning. My name is Rose Noonan. I am the immediate past department commander for the great state of Missouri. Along with George Shepard, one of our NECs, we present a check for $3,396 for Operation Comfort Warrior.
Dave Riley, chairman of the New York delegation. Also with me in the stadium is Department Adjutant James Casey. I have two checks to present today, one from the Department of New York Auxiliary for the Be the One for $1,212.87, and another check for Operation Comfort Warrior from the Department of New York for $19,157.
Good morning, I'm Doug Church, Western Section Vice Commander of the state of Pennsylvania. With me is our NECman, Mike Stalacio, alternate NECman, Mike Murphy. I have our adjutant Woody Hogan and Assistant Adjutant Troy Michaels. I'd like to present a check of $1,300.
On behalf of Department Commander Brian Molman and past Department Commander Marilyn Britton, the officers and members of the great state of Michigan present $2,000 to Operation Comfort Warrior.
Good morning. On behalf of the Department of Oklahoma, we have a check for $650 for Operation Comfort Warrior.
Good morning. My name's Scott Connor, Department Vice of Massachusetts. And with me here today, my Department Commander Sandra Davis and our NEC Mike Davis. Presenting on behalf of our past national commanders, Daniel Doherty, Jake Comer, and Paul Morin, who was our inspiration for today's donation. The special shout out to our grassroots gang, Jim and Rich of the Vernon Hill Post, and Adam, Lisa, Ryan, and of course my Coast Guard veteran wife, Grace, for a check in the amount of $3,250.
Good morning. My name is Charles Stennis, and I am the immediate past commander of the Department of Ohio. With me this morning is our NECman, Steve Mazowick, our current commander, Jason Rue, and our adjutant, John Robinson. And the Department of Ohio proudly donates $10,000 to Operation Comfort Warrior. OH!
Commander from the Department of Indiana, we have our Department Commander Robert Oath, our NEC Ed Trice, our all NEC Kenny Cooper, and our National Vice Commander Kenny Hill. Donations we received since the May meetings: Jasper American Legion Post 147, $500. The American Legion Indiana Auxiliary, the president of the Indiana Auxiliary this year, her project was Operation Comfort Warrior. She raised $18,064. An unknown person, $1,700.02. Sellersburg Post 204, $1,500. Miami Correctional Facility, $555. Robert E. Kennington Post 34, $500. Tennyson American Legion Post 463, $500. Griffin American Legion Post 66, $500. Angola Squadron Squadron 31, $250. Bonnie Sloan Squadron 28, $250. Arkansas Squadron 355, $200. Kevin Brinkneeder from Tell City, $200. Ron and Brenda Barley, $100. Richard and Andrea Woodkey, $100. Larry Lowry, $100. The Sons of the American Legion 7th District, $100. Tell City American Legion Post 213, $50. And our detachment of Indiana's Commander's project this year was Operation Comfort Warrior under Charlie Gimlish. His project raised $24,543.73, with a total today $49,714.75. Thank you.
Our next speaker successfully represented more than 12,000 veterans and their family members before the United States Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. Prior to his founding of the law firm in which he is a managing partner, he served as an appellate litigator in VA's Office of General Counsel, Appellate Litigation Division in Washington, D.C. In 2010 and 2011, he served as president of the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims Bar Association. A graduate of Andrews University in Michigan, he holds a Doctor of from the University, from Indiana University School of Law. From Bergman and Moore, Glenn R. Bergman.
Thank you and good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I have had the honor of sitting in the floor these last couple of days, and I know that this is an opportunity to talk about myself, but I'm not going to do that. I'd like to talk about you, and I'd like to talk about your American Legion leadership and your department service officers. In 2017, your NEC passed a national resolution that approved a memorandum of understanding with Bergman and Moore that set forth 3 principal thrusts. Number 1, no-cost representation in disability appeals before the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. Number 2, the provision of a national training school of your department service officers. And the third was a more amorphous principle, and that is supporting other American Legion initiatives. I'd like to show you a report card of the work that has been done since 2017. Now, any appeals before the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims take at least a year because justice doesn't work as quickly as sometimes we'd like, but it's a very fast docket, and I'm very proud of the work that is done there, of the judges, even of the VA attorneys. I hope you can see these numbers, and if you can, I'm going to quickly go over them. But since September 1, 2017, up until July 30, so just a month ago, we have had 5,552 completed case dispositions of American Legion members. And I am proud to report that of those 5,552, 5,531 ended in a favorable outcome to your members. That means that only about 5 out of every 1,000 appeals of your members ended in a loss. Today, at this very moment, we have approximately 1,105 currently pending cases. And again, this isn't a representation of us. This is a representation of the success of your department service officers. This is not a flag of Japan. I was going to use Bergman and Moore blue, but I used American Legion red. This is a pie chart, and for those who couldn't see the numbers, I'm hoping this represents better the success of your department service officers, because it's your service officers who start the claims. They present the arguments. They obtain the evidence. By the time the cases come to federal court, where we take them and represent you, the record is closed. We cannot add evidence. We can add argument, and that's what we do. But this report card, again, of 99.6% success rate in federal court is a result of your leadership in having us and educating your department service officers on how best to serve the American Legion members and how to quickly obtain benefits for your members. Which leads us to the second main thrust of the Memorandum of Understanding pursuant to the National Resolution in 2017, and that is training. The provision of training, we conduct 2 national training schools each year. Up until COVID, these were in-person sessions in Washington, D.C. and in Indianapolis. After COVID hit, actually we were in session in Washington, D.C. when COVID revealed itself, so to speak, and everyone was sent home. Since then, they have been remote, but I am again proud to say that 2,153 graduates have graduated from these schools, your service officers, over 13 schools. And when I say graduate, that means that there was a test. This isn't a merely show up and get a certificate. We test your department service officers, and we push them hard. And I am proud to say that like I said, 2,153 graduates, an average of 200 DSO students per session. Effective last year, as a result of your executive director, Shannon Nuntavong, he approached me and said, you know, we'd like to do more. And so as a result of that conversation, we created a new service officer school, which we now run monthly. And again, I'm proud to say that there have been this year, just about 500 graduates of that school. So each month, in addition to the 2 national training schools, we also have a monthly new service officer school. Board unit trainings are also part of our umbrella of education. A suicide prevention training is in progress. And what's very exciting, and again, this is another result of the initiatives of your executive director, in October 2024, there will be a Legion Leadership Symposium, which is going to be the top of the top in training. Obviously, that's still a year away, but we have been planning with your VA&R staff, and I'm excited to say that in-person school will involve members of Congress, VA leadership, and an oral argument before the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. They're coming out of their courthouse, coming to the National Convention Center in Leesburg, and they are going to hold an oral argument, a 3-judge panel oral argument at this school. So I'm very proud, again, of the investment your American Legion leadership makes in your department service officers related to training. Everyone remembers the PACT Act. Excuse me. The gavel fell. I'm not going to touch it. The PACT Act came out last August, which was a great provision that came out of Congress. Buried into the PACT Act was what the law calls an other matter, and that is Camp Lejeune Justice Act. Bergman & Moore is not we are not a mass tort firm, but like you, we saw that these predatory law firms just came out of the woodwork and started aggressively approaching Legion members. So we talked to your leadership about entering into an MOU to protect your members, to create and execute a service project that helps support Legion memberships in determining whether or not the Camp Lejeune Justice Act is something for them. I'm proud to say, as part of that initiative, we interviewed and screened a number of law firms to help determine which law firm to send your Legion memberships to. We were able to negotiate a reduced fee structure that caps costs and fees. And I'm proud to say that we are part of the executive committee of that mass tort litigation, which as of now hasn't been publicized. I'm publicizing it a little bit today, but that makes us part of the leadership board of the Camp Lejeune Justice Act litigation. And this is an example of what your leadership, and I want to thank Dean Kessel for seeing the importance of making sure that you, your membership, your Legionnaires and leaders in the American Legion get up-to-date, accurate information about Camp Lejeune Justice Act. Each month, there is a full-page ad in your American Legion magazine. And what I hope you are also noticing, there are not ads from other law firms trying to get your Legion memberships to enter into fee agreements of 50, 60% plus costs, which is abusive. Part of this outreach includes promoting accurate information, ensuring that the confusion, and there is a lot of confusion. I'm sure you remember all the ads you hear and see. You can't get away from the ads, but some of the confusion includes that the lawsuit involves an offset against VA compensation. That is not true. Camp Lejeune Justice Act is a parallel remedy to VA claims. And so we are making sure that the word gets out to everyone in the American Legion related to Camp Lejeune Justice Act. We have engaged several individuals to help in this effort. Anita Bess is a retired colonel, public affairs officer of the U.S. Marine Corps. She helps us as our CLJA coordinator, and Liz Hartman, who is one of yours, who acts as a spokesman. She travels the different posts talking about Camp Lejeune Justice Act. So our approach is a two-pronged approach. We are recommending that members talk to an accredited American Legion Department Service Officer about the best strategy, going through a VA claim and separately filing potentially a Camp Lejeune Justice Act. Because remember, folks, these are parallel remedies. Obtaining the one doesn't prevent you from obtaining the second. And finally, the third initiative of the national resolution that dates back to 2017 is support and protection of other American Legion initiatives. And that was completed just 2 weeks ago. Your leadership elected to support Appellant James Rudisill in his GI Bill battle before the U.S. Supreme Court, and asked us as your law firm to file a brief on behalf of the American Legion. And let me just pause for a second to talk about the GI Bill. This is something I did not know until I started researching the GI Bill, but the original GI Bill, which was entitled the Servicemen's Readjustment Act, which passed in 1944, did you know that this was an American Legion initiative? Your own past national commander, a gentleman by the name of Harry Comery, excuse me, was the principal architect of this ground-shaking bill, which included a comprehensive economic package, not only of education benefits, of home loans, farm loans, and unemployment benefits. And history gives the American Legion credit to the American Legion as being one of the principal architects, which still today is considered one of the most profoundly successful pieces of legislation in the history of our country. And this is a copy of the front page. I highlighted what it says there, brief of the American Legion. Here's a copy. This was filed on behalf of the American Legion on August 16, just 2 weeks ago. And I'm proud that the American Legion, again, has a voice on the national stage related to the GI Bill. I'd like to conclude by making an observation from my perspective as your legal counsel in helping your members with disability benefits and with education and with these other initiatives. We do not need new veteran service organizations. There is a perfectly good one right here. I went to the symposium of Be the One, and I was impressed with what you are doing to destigmatize suicide by bringing in, and this is it's not a campaign, it's an initiative to bring in younger veterans, because you are charged, just as the generation before you, with supporting them, with leading them. And so I would encourage, and I see a lot of you here, I would encourage, and some of you have what the Bible calls a crown of wisdom, which is gray hair. I would encourage you to bring in the younger leaders. You have a lot of smart young veterans that are serving as legionnaires. Your department service officers have a lot of young people who are passionate, who are smart, and they deserve, I believe, not to replace you, but to be here with you and help lead. And finally, again, I would like to encourage you to take a strong stand to mobilize your membership before Congress so Congress can see the importance and the might and the strength of the American Legion. There are bad actors out there. As you heard from the Secretary McDonough, VA Secretary McDonough, talk about veterans should not pay to file claims. And that is what's happening, because predatory claims agents have come in, they've entered the arena, and they are hollowing out the American Legion. They are doing the work of your department service officers, and that needs to stop. And what is Bergman and Moore doing? I'm happy to say that we have assembled a leadership team. We've engaged a national software development company to create an innovative, user-friendly claims platform so that your department service officers, instead of helping 500 veterans at a time, that they can help 1,000, 2,000, because that's what the competition is doing, and they're doing it for a fee. We believe that claims processing, the filing of claims, should be free. So we've invested, by the end of this year, we will have invested $1 million. This is a multi-year package, and we believe that initial claims should be done by your department service officers, and it should be done for free. Thank you for your attention, and may God continue to bless the American Legion.
Total contributions for Operation Comfort Warrior in 2023 are $250,066.10. And here is a record for you. Total contributions this year to all Legion charities, $10,875,042.26. And your national adjutant has just nicknamed me the $10 million commander. I would now like to call my family to the lectern. I'd like to introduce my wife, Severia, who's put up with me on the road to the National Commander and as well as National Commander, and anybody who's been a National Commander knows that your wife is sitting home, hopefully with company, but most of the time not. And I can't thank her enough for what she's done to support me in my Legion career. And I'm looking forward to taking her away on our 50th anniversary, which will be in 3 weeks. My daughter, Jeanette, the baby, for all of her support, and believe me, she gives me support and tells me what to do and what not to do. Must have got it from her mother. Thank you so much. And Daniel Rowe here is her boyfriend. They've been together for 8 years. He wanted to sit in the seat back there, but I consider him family because I know he takes really good care of my daughter. Thank you, Dan. Here we go. You know, I think I've had a productive year. I don't really generally put any attention to myself because I believe that it's we and it's not I. And there's a little known statement that's been going around in the United States as I've been traveling. They call me the blue cap is stuffed into a red cap. And that's the way I would like to be remembered because, you know, I visited a lot of small posts in rural communities. And most of the time there was no lectern, no podium. I don't believe in that. And we had some nice conversations, sitting down informally. And I think the post membership really liked that. And that's the way it should be. It's, they are probably represent a good portion of all of our posts. And my project, you know, besides Be the One, was to make sure I got to as many of those small posts and small communities as I could. And I think we're all better off for it. Very proud people, posts with 8 members in them doing such crazy things. I walk up to a post commander and say, what do you do for the American Legion? We don't do anything. And then you have the conversation around a table, and they tell you, Commander, as soon as you leave, we got to get ready for our Memorial Day parade. I said, who runs it? We do. I said, I thought you said you did nothing. And that's the way they are. They don't believe that it's just a regular thing to them. We sent 4 kids to Boys State, and one of them had a military museum that they ran in the town. Pretty neat stuff. I'll remember that for a long, long time. And for those of you that are in here that belong to those small posts, thank you so much for allowing me to share in your experiences. Past National Commanders are back here. They so valuable to me during the year. Advice, support, friendship, building confidence in me, which I don't think I suffered from after the first day. You just get going and you keep going, and here I am. But thank you so much to all the past National Commanders. Now, there's a gentleman sitting over here, Adjutant Dan Wheeler, has become a good friend and confidant. And without him, I don't think any of the past National Commanders would be where they are today, intellectually and humbly. He has been, every time you call him up, it could be nighttime, could be daytime, he's there, he's got the right answer, and if he doesn't have it, 15 minutes later, you can be sure he woke somebody up to get you that answer. You know, when I go back to my days of campaigning, and we were during COVID, we had all committee meetings, the New York committee, by Zoom. And I was very lucky because I had a past National Commander on my committee, John P. Jake Comer. John, please stand up and take a bow because I really appreciate what you did for me on my committee. He used to say, I'm doing nothing, I'm sitting on the couch. Anybody from the New York committee, please stand and be recognized. New York Committee to Elect. Can't see out there, the lights are, if you're out there, please thank you very much for everything you've done. Department of New York, please rise. There they are. Thank you for everything you've done for me during my years. I really appreciate it. Adjutant Jim Casey, Department Commander Dave Riley, Department Commander Tim Colmer, and Mike McDermott, I think, was part of that. Thank you so much for what you've done for me. And all of you in this room, you're what makes the American Legion tick. You are the, I talk mostly to the blue cappers because you're the one ones that make it happen. You're the grassroots of the organization, where the rubber hits the road, and that's how we get all of our volunteer hours so we can report to Congress. It's fantastic what we do in the communities. Thank you for that as well. Who else do I have here? I don't have anybody here. I got some other people, but I'm going to introduce them as we go along. But thank you very much for this year. You guys? Thank you. Sergeant at Arms, there they are. Thank you. Okay, next. All set? Would my national vice commanders please come forward? All of my vice commanders have represented me well during the last 12 months. I appreciate your devotion and sacrifice for this great organization. And before I go on, in the beginning of the year, most people don't know this, but I had a little hiccup in my health, and it lasted for about, I guess about 9 weeks. And if it wasn't for these vice commanders filling in for me where in the states that I couldn't go to, I don't know what I would have done. So I want to thank them very, very much for filling in for me when I wasn't able to. As a token of my appreciation, I would like to present you each with a gift.
National Commander Triola, on behalf of your 5 National Vice Commanders, we want to thank you for the great year you had. We want to thank you for all the help and support you gave us. And on behalf of, and to this great American Legion organization, on behalf of the 5 of us, we would like to present you with this gift.
Some of the people in the audience may appreciate what they wrote because not too many people know my nickname. Jim, AKA Midge. I'll get to that in a second. It's been a pleasure serving as one of your vice commanders. I had a great time traveling throughout the West, spreading your team's programs, especially Be the One and community involvement from Doug. When I got to Wyoming on campaign trip, there was a NEC and a department commander waiting for me in the airport, and they had a sign, and it said, "Welcome to Wyoming, Midge." That's Jim spelled backwards. I feel the love. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow. Gift card for $1,000. Thank you so much. Thank you. I now call on the National Historian, Sergeant-at-Arms, Chaplain, and my aide to come forward. You each played important roles in the success of our organization during the past year. I salute you for your service. Please accept these gifts as a token of my appreciation. Tell me this is going to be tough. It's tough. So I'm going to start off with Gary. And a lot of you know Gary, that on my travels, how great of an aide he was. And when the national president or the national Sons commander or past national commander Comer, Flo, all of those came to visit with us, Gary became their aide as well. And when I chose him, you know, I tell everybody when I go to visit that most people that see the aide only see him stuffing bags in the back of a car at the airport. And that's not really why I chose him. So Gary was the department commander of New York for our centennial year, the 100th year. He's a 27-year Navy veteran. He's a leader. He's great for advice. He's a confidant. And when you're traveling, sometimes you need somebody to lean on or ask for advice, you know, before you go out and visit. And he did such a wonderful job of that. Always one step ahead of me. Every time I asked him a question, he had the answer ahead of time. It's going to be tough going on without seeing him every morning. Thank you, Gary.
Good morning, American Legion. Commander, it was an honor, a privilege to have the unique opportunity to travel around the world with you, to go to all the posts that we went to. You wanted to hit small posts, we did that. So thank you for having me part of your year. The friendships made to the departments and the Legion family out there from around the world, thank you for your hospitality and friendship. And we have a little presentation for you, sir. So you might have received a coin or two. So we have a coin rack here for you.
Microphone.
So we have a coin rack here for you for the bosun mate that you are. And I'm going to present you with your first coin. This is the Vincent J. Jim Triola National Commander's coin. And we have a retirement box that says, "Be the One," American Legion, Vincent J. Jim Triola National Commander, for all the little knickknacks that you received.
Little? was tough. Next, we have a few words from our National Adjutant, Dan Wheeler.
I'd like to ask your National Treasurer, Judge Advocate, Assistant National Adjutant, Executive Directors to come forward. National Commander Triola, I can't tell you what a pleasure it's been to serve with you. I love sitting around those banquets and we tell jokes, and you know, the last time we sat around and told jokes, I got COVID. So I don't know what happened, but Rodney was very sorry to see me get sick. Yeah. You're not easy to buy for. You didn't drop any hints, probably because you never think of yourself first. You know, you are that definition that we heard yesterday of what love is. You think of other people first. So we went the easy route. The gentleman on the stage here with me and the directors at National Headquarters all contributed and to buy you this $1,500 Amazon gift card.
Wow. Looks like a heavy gift.
And be sure to share it with Severia because she shared you with us for the past 12 months. And we know that back in Maine, the bus company called and said they want you back. So we included some Snickers, pretzels, and other snacks. We figured those kids deserve a good sugar rush after being away from you for a year. And we know you appreciate them being a little hyperactive. So it's been a pleasure serving under you. You've done a fantastic job representing the American Legion. We all love you and we're going to miss you.
National Vice Commander Paul Kennedy, will you please take the gavel and preside over the next order of business?
After serving as the National Vice Commander, I am honored to represent all members of the American Legion in presiding over the next order of business. This is the time when we present to our National Commander, Vincent James Jim Triola, the colors of his term in office and a plaque. At this time, I call on past National Commander Richard Santos to present the colors, which will be followed by the presentation of the plaque.
Please rise. This puts meaning Mutt and Jeff for the older folks. Newport Harbor, American Legion Post 291 Color Guard, Department of California. Present the colors to center stage.
Color Guard, forward, march.
Hand salute.
Ready, face.
Two. Commander, be the one. Your colors, the American flag and the American Legion red banner, are presented for us.
The American Legion Red Banner has been your guide on while serving our great nation and our organization. Under this banner, you have carried the fight, the message, and hope for our nation's veterans, with the reverberation, resonance, and echo of Be the One. When you served on USS Nitro, boats of mate third class, then as now, Old Glory was your standard, flying high off the full staff on the fantail in port, and on the highest part of the ship, the mast underway from horizon to horizon to be seen. As we see here today, the colors of the United States are never dipped, never subservient, always waving, carried high, as you have led us, carried high. You have stood tall and never wavered in your service, dedication, and commitment to our nation's military, veterans, and their families. May these colors guide you in your future endeavors. May they wave erect, free, and true. May they remain in a prominent area of your home, symbolizing your year of service to the American Legion. Commander, these are your colors. I think you have to retire them.
Color Guard, retire my colors. Hand salute.
Color Guard, forward, march.
Ready? Two.
I think Mr. Kennedy's supposed to be back here. Oh, no, you.
Okay. Thank you, Commander Santos. You were our 9/11 National Commander, and as such, you have been a great example of how to lead our organization through tough times. Your wisdom and experience are tools that will continue to benefit this organization that we both love so much. You can be seated. There are far too many people who helped me throughout my Legion career for me to start naming them here, but rest assured that you are one whose counsel I valued highly. I understand you also have another presentation.
I, as all past national commanders, never follow the script. For the previous 103 national conventions, men and women have been elected and taken center stage as National Commander of the American Legion. Many more have been honored by a vote of a national convention or made honorary national commanders. As National Commander, the Chief Executive Officer and official spokesman of the American Legion, I like Mutton Jeff. In weathering some rough seas and perilous conflictions, you have represented us throughout the United States and many countries overseas. You have led the world, you let the world know the American Legion's purposes, policies, and mission. Upon taking oath of office for National Commander on September 1, 2022, you announced, and I quote, "My platform, my #1 priority is tackling the toughest challenges facing veteran suicide. The American Legion is asking you to be the one. And by you, I include every one of us, military and civilian alike. We all need to be the one and to begin thinking, talking, and acting to save just one life. Well, Commander, you have held true to your platform and to your #1 priority. Under Be the One brand and your leadership, you have led the movement, the mission, the struggle, and yes, the battle to reduce the rate of suicide in the veteran community. And by veteran community, I include those on active duty. You have put the B-1 ship on the right course at the right speed. The difference that you have made and the number of lives you have affected is probably boundless and inestimable. However, as the future becomes the present, we may use the reduction of 21 lives per day to 0 as our scale. Commander, I present to you your plaque. It attests to your election to the high office of National Commander. The plaque symbolizes your service to the American Legion. The plaque is one measure of our appreciation, our gratitude, and our recognition of the 1,000 Legionnaires who you met during your term of office. From the national officers with whom you served, and of those who are here today to witness. The plaque reads, presented to Vincent J. Jim Crayola, elected by National Convention to serve the high office of the National Commander of the American Legion for the year 2022 and 2023. This commemoration is given in appreciation to your dedicated leadership, recognition of your devotion to the 4 principles of our great organization, service to God and country, and a token of the high esteem of your fellow Legionnaires have in you. Given on this 31st day of August 2023 before the delegates assembled at the National Convention. The American Legion seems to have the right person at the right time with the right message serving as National Commander. I learned that from past Commander Jake Comer. We always seem to have the right person there. And you are no exception. You were the right one at the right time to be the one. If you were on the USS Nitro right now in the boatswain locker, I'm sure the chief boatswain mate would say to you, "Bravo, Zulu," which means job well done. And to use another nautical phrase of good luck, a blessing as it were, as a person departs on a journey of life, may you and your family always have fair winds and following seas. Commander, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Take a picture over here. Yep.
Is the past National President Vicky Couts and the past National Commander of the Suns, Chris Carlton, in the audience? Somewhere? Can't see too good up here, but thank you so much for a great year. 2 great partners. I appreciate all of the work you did on behalf of your organizations and helping each other with our own projects. You'll be friends of mine for the rest of my life. Thank you so much. Thank you again, PNC Santos. This plaque will ever be a reminder of the remarkable honor that was bestowed on me. I believe every national commander tries to leave his or her mark. But as you know, the same works in reverse. The American Legion has left its mark on me, and I know the impact that this great organization has had on you. I would like to thank everybody in this room for allowing me the honor to lead the American Legion for this past year. Thank you. We have come now to a special order of business, the election of national officers. National Judge Advocate Mark Seavey will read the rules of convention governing the nomination and election of officers.
The rules for election of national officers are as follows. Voting shall be by acclamation, except when a roll call is demanded by the chairman of at least 3 departments. Election of national officers shall be by roll call. Prior to the election of national officers, the national commander shall appoint, subject to the approval of the convention, a judge of elections and such number of tellers as he deems necessary, provided that the total tellers so appointed shall be an odd number. In a contested election, each candidate going to the ballot shall be entitled to 1 teller of his choice. Nominations for national officers shall be from the floor on roll call of the departments alphabetically arranged. Each department may present as many candidates as it chooses. Nominating speeches for national officers shall be limited to 5 minutes each. Not more than 2 seconding speeches shall be made for any candidate, and said speeches shall be limited to 3 minutes. When more than 2 candidates are nominated for any office, balloting shall continue until 1 candidate receives a majority of the votes of the convention, except in the election of national vice commanders. In a contested election for national vice commanders, balloting shall continue until A, majorities and B, pluralities are established for 1 or more candidates under the following provisions. If on any ballot taken less than 5 candidates receive the necessary majority to elect, the candidate or candidates receiving a majority vote shall be declared elected, and a new ballot shall be taken for the remaining number of places to be filled. The candidate receiving the lowest number of votes on the preceding ballot shall be disqualified, except should 2 candidates remain to fill 1 place, a new ballot shall be taken. The convention will nominate and elect a national commander and 5 national vice commanders in this sequence. At the conclusion of balloting on national vice commanders, each department delegation chairman shall deliver a written ballot to the tellers. Such ballots shall be in the hands of tellers before communication is made to the national commander for announcement of the results. This concludes the rules.
As chairman of this convention, I now appoint as judge of the election James W. Casey, adjutant of the Department of New York, and as tellers of the election Julie Muley, adjutant, Department of Wisconsin, Harry R. Butch Hanson Jr., adjutant, Department of Connecticut, and past National Commander Jimmy Foster, adjutant, Department of Kansas. Will the judge and tellers of the election please come forward? In my remarks a little while ago, I was a little bit overwhelmed. I forgot to thank the most important part, and that's the staff of the American Legion headquarters. From Indianapolis, from Washington, all of them do such a great job in keeping the national commander in check, making sure they have everything necessary for me to do my job. So all of the national staff, the directors of the divisions, and all of the support people, please, thank you very much, and especially Patty Jackson, my secretary. She was fantastic, especially in her first year. Thank you. National Adjutant Daniel S. Wheeler will now call the roll of the departments. The purpose of the roll call is to receive nominations for National Commander of the American Legion.
I will now call the roll. Alabama.
Mr. Chairman, Buddy Keene, delegate for Alabama. Mr. Chairman, Alabama yields to Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Mr. Commander, Carl Stuvingen, delegate from the Department of Wisconsin. Mr. Commander, I request the chair recognize past National Commander Denise Rowan for the purpose of a nomination for the high office of National Commander.
Request granted.
Request granted.
Thank you, Commander. National officers, delegates to this 104th National Convention, Legion family members, guests, friends, good morning again. This time, I am here to talk to you about a man from Wisconsin that I have known for over 20 years. Many of you came to know him when he served as past National Commander Jimmy Foster as his national chaplain. During the August 2011 memorial service in Minneapolis, Minnesota, he shared a story that had the entire Legion family abuzz and some in tears. We left that service with our hearts uplifted. Everyone listened and absorbed what he had to say. We learned and heard more than just a memorial service that day. We heard from a chaplain that was destined to be something even greater. We learned that God had blessed the American Legion with a man that everyone could get behind and follow, a man who truly believes in for God and country. When his year as national chaplain was over, he went back to Wisconsin, where he learned even more about the American Legion and our entire American Legion family. He studied our history and about the American Legion's mission across the globe. He continued to grow and take on challenges of leadership positions in the state of Wisconsin and at the national level. And as he learned, he began to realize how personal the American Legion is to each and every one of us. During national and our department Legion colleges, we talk about our why. Why did we first join our organization? Why did we continue to be part of this Legion family? Why? Why do we spend our time, our vacation, our money doing what we do? What difference does it make? This man not only found his why, but he understands that God does not work alone. He works through each and every one of us every day. Now, during the membership workshop last month, he shared with you the 3 C's of servant leadership: competence, character, and commitment. Competence. As a leader, he has learned about our Legion family inside and out. He has traveled the country to get to know you and to learn about your concerns. He has the wisdom to surround himself with Legionnaires who have more years of experience, and he listens. He listens to staff and experts in their fields. A competent leader never stops learning and does their best to encourage and help their followers to continue to learn. Character. Leaders must be an example for others to follow, legally, morally, and ethically. They make decisions based on what they believe and what they have personally lived through themselves. They are there with unwavering strength and wisdom. Others want to be like them. And commitment. Leaders must make a commitment to the organization, to be part of a team, part of this amazing American Legion family. They must be passionate about their jobs. They are resolved to contribute honorable service, to accomplish a mission despite adversity, obstacles, and challenges. Leaders must be ready to rise to any challenge that comes before them. I believe if you Google servant leader, you will find a picture of this man. He knows what it means to be a servant leader and has the competence, the character, and the commitment to lead the American Legion and our members into the future. He will lead from the front, helping us understand our purposes and our mission, but he will also be behind us, giving us support and words of encouragement whenever they are needed. Today may be the last day of our convention, but we have a major order of business in front of us. We need to elect the right person who can see that the work that we did here in Charlotte is moved into action, a person ready to lead us forward. It is time to send this man on a mission to spread the good word, the good news of an organization, a family that is all about God and country, all about making a difference in the lives of our military, our veterans, and their families, all about showing the world that we are veterans still serving America. As a delegate to this national convention, it is my personal privilege to place into nomination Wisconsin's Daniel J. Seehafer for the high office of National Commander. Thank you.
Continuing the roll call. Alaska.
Mr. Commander, Deb Davis, delegate from Alaska. Mr. Commander, Alaska yields to Kansas.
Kansas.
Mr. Commander, Jeremy Ehart, delegate from Kansas. Mr. Commander, I request that the chair recognize Dan Wiley for the purpose of seconding the nomination for high office of National Commander.
Request approved.
Good morning. National Commander Triola, National Adjutant Wheeler, national officers, past national commanders, delegates, and guests to the 104th National Convention of the American Legion. I am Dan Wiley, a delegate from the state of Kansas, and it is my distinct honor and privilege to second the nomination of Daniel J. Seehafer, representing the Badger State of Wisconsin, to the high office of National Commander of the American Legion. Dan earned his eligibility through service with the United States Navy during the Bosnia-Herzegovina War era as a commissioned officer enrolling in the Navy chaplaincy program. As Dan says, God has a way of opening and closing doors, and so it was with Lieutenant Dan's military service. His military service opened the door to God and country, but the door didn't close with his discharge. Instead, it opened a passageway to a lifetime of service to both God and veterans. A member of the Horicon Post 157, Dan has served in numerous leadership positions at all levels of the American Legion. At the post level, Dan served on the building committee as adjutant and was a 100% and all-time high post commander. At the county level, he served as commander and chaplain. And he served as commander, first vice commander, and second vice commander at the district level. For the Department of Wisconsin, Dan has served on the Membership and Post Activities Committee, the Finance Committee, the Americanism Committee, the Strategic Planning Committee, and as chairman of the Religious Emphasis Committee. He also served as assistant chaplain, chaplain, vice commander, and commander. At the national level, Dan is a graduate of the National American Legion College. He has served on a number of committees, including the Marketing Commission Executive Committee, the IT Oversight Committee, the Foreign Relations Committee, the National Cemetery Committee, and the System Worth Saving Task Force. Dan has also served as chairman of the Chaplains Conference, the 21st Century Ad Hoc Committee, the Membership and Post Activities Committee, the Veterans Employment and Education Commission, and most recently, the Legislative Commission. Dan served as national chaplain in 2010, 2011. Dan is married to Stacy and has 2 children, Jacob and Emma, all of whom are members of the American Legion family. Dan has served his God, his family, his country, and the American Legion with honor, and now will admirably serve as your American Legion commander with his theme of Be the One. As a duly registered delegate, I proudly second the nomination of Daniel J. Seehafer to be your next national commander.
I now call on the National Adjutant Wheeler to continue the roll.
Arizona.
Mr. Commander, Mike Simon, delegate from Arizona. Mr. Commander, I request the chair recognize Matt Schuman for the purpose of seconding the nomination for the high office of National Commander.
Request approved.
Good morning, Legion family. National Commander Triola, National Adjutant Wheeler, National Officers, past National Commanders, fellow delegates and guests of the 104th National Convention of the American Legion. My name is Matthew Schuman, and I hail from the great state of Arizona, the home of Senators Barry Goldwater and John McCain. I rise today with great happiness and joy to second the nomination of our friend, Reverend Daniel J. Seehafer from Wisconsin, to serve us all as the National Commander of America's largest and most impactful veteran service organization. Dan was born and raised in Merrill, Wisconsin. In high school, he was the class treasurer and a member of the jazz band. Dan was quite an active student, just as he is an active Legionnaire. Dan lettered in cross country, and as a sophomore, giving him the experience to cross this country in service of his people. After high school, Dan attended Concordia University and received a Bachelor's of Arts. From a young age, Dan knew and felt he had a higher calling and wanted to be a pastor. Following his dream, Dan visited the Holy Land while in college, which ultimately led him to getting a Master's of Divinity from his beloved Concordia Theological Seminary in Fort Wayne, Indiana. After following the Lord's plan from Dan's education, he returned to Wisconsin in 1997, where he was instilled as an assistant pastor at the St. Stephen Lutheran Church, where he still serves his flock today as administrative pastor, and he loves it every single day. Daniel earned his eligibility for membership in the American Legion by serving in the world's greatest and most powerful Navy. And as no surprise, Dan again followed the Lord's guidance, and he served in the United States Navy Chaplaincy Program. Dan loved his time in the Navy, as his position enabled him not only to serve with Navy personnel, but also with the United States Marine Corps. From his time in San Diego, Newport, Everett, Washington, the USS Paul F. Foster, and even at Camp Pendleton, Dan will always cherish his time in military service. Legion family, as I mentioned a few moments ago, Reverend Dan is still an active pastor. In fact, Dan still serves his congregation and oversees 900 baptized souls, a parochial school, and even a children's center. None of this would be possible without the sacrifice, love, dedication, and support from his amazing wife, Stacy, his two children, Jacob, who is now a senior in high school, and his daughter, Emma, who just entered the 8th grade. In closing, Dan has served God, his family, his country, and the American Legion with honor and distinction, and will now admirably serve as your next American Legion National Commander. As a duly registered delegate from the great state of Arizona, I proudly second the nomination of Daniel J. Seehafer to be the one and become your next National Commander for God and country. Thank you.
The convention will come back to order.
I don't know what I'm doing.
All delegation chairs, please proceed to a floor microphone. The adjutant will continue the roll call.
But he can't do it.
Arkansas.
Commander, the great state of Arkansas, home of the Arkansas Razorbacks, seconds the following nomination.
California.
Commander, John Aldrich, California delegate. We cast all our delegate strength, second the nomination for Daniel C. Hafer.
Connecticut.
Commander Richard Lennon, the delegation chairman from the Department of Connecticut, submarine capital of the world.
Where's Florida?
On behalf of our delegation, we second the nomination for Daniel C. Hafer for the high office of National Commander. Thank you.
Delaware.
Commander, Delaware, Dwight D. Lacey, Department of Delaware. Second nomination to Daniel J. C. Hafer for the National Commander.
District of Columbia.
Chairman, DeTasha Coleman from the District of Columbia. On the behalf of our chair delegation, we enforce and endorse the election and the nomination for Daniel C. Hafer.
Florida.
The great Sunshine State, NEC Jim Ramos, and votes 115 votes for our next National Commander, Dave Schiffer.
France.
Mr. Adjutant, the Department of France, birthplace of the American Legion, seconds the nomination for Daniel J. Hafer for National Commander.
Georgia.
Delegate James Whalen, delegate from Georgia, we second the nomination.
Hawaii.
Fran Riddell, delegate from the Aloha State. The Aloha State cast their votes for Daniel J. C. Hafer.
Idaho.
Idaho, Bob Skinner, NEC delegate, cast our votes unanimously for Daniel C. Hafer for National Commander.
We are in the process of seconding the nomination or offering new candidates. Idaho.
Idaho seconds the nomination of Daniel C. Hafer for National Commander.
Illinois.
Delmer Buskey, Commander, Department of Illinois. Illinois seconds the nomination for Daniel C. Hafer.
Indiana.
Mr. Chairman, Bob Oath, Department Commander of the Great Hoosier State, proudly seconds the nomination.
Iowa.
The Department of Iowa seconds the nomination for Daniel J. C. Hafer, National Commander.
Kentucky.
Commander Kramer from Kentucky and the Kentucky Proud delegation proudly endorse and second the nomination of Daniel J. C. Hafer, National Commander.
Louisiana.
Commander, Louisiana seconds the nomination for Commander of Daniel C. Hafer.
Maine.
Commander Lloyd Woods, NEC from Maine, proudly seconds the nomination for Daniel C. Hafer, National Commander.
Maryland.
Ruth Higgins, Delegate Chairman from
the Department of Maryland for the 104th National Convention, home of past national commanders Eaton, Bacon, and Santos. We place all delegation strength behind Daniel C. Hafer from the Department of Wisconsin for National Commander.
Massachusetts.
Sandra Davis, Massachusetts Delegation Chair. Massachusetts further seconds the nomination of Daniel J.C. Hafer for National Commander.
Mexico.
Mike Wood, NEC, Mexico, we second the nomination.
Michigan.
Mr. Chairman, the Department of Michigan seconds the nomination of Daniel J. Hafer for the office of National Commander.
Minnesota.
Tom Furlan, Delegation Chair from the Department of Minnesota. Minnesota seconds the nomination for Daniel C. Hafer.
Mississippi. Mississippi. Missouri.
National Commander, National Adjutant, as a registered delegate of the Department of Missouri, on behalf of past National Commander Joe Frank, home of President and Legionnaire Harry S. Truman, home of Super Bowl champions Kansas City Chiefs, and the site of the 2027 National Convention. Missouri seconds nomination Daniel C. Hafer.
Montana.
Lowell Long, Department Commander for Montana. Montana seconds the nomination for Daniel C. Hafer for Commander.
Nebraska.
Nebraska, Don Suki, Delegate Chairman, home of past National Commander Michael Helm. Cast all our votes for Daniel C. Hafer for seconding this nomination.
Nevada.
Jeanette Evans, Department of Nevada, duly registered delegate, seconds the nomination for Daniel C. Hafer for National Commander.
New Hampshire.
Mr. Chairman, Leo Paquin, delegate from New Hampshire. We second the nomination for Daniel C. Hafer.
New Jersey.
Steve Fisher, delegation chairperson for Department of New Jersey, seconds the nomination.
New Mexico.
Ed Cheatham, Department of New Mexico, second nomination of Daniel J.C. Hafer for National Commander.
New York. New York.
They don't want to change the commander.
New York seconds the nomination for Dan C. Hafer for the high office of National Commander.
North Carolina.
Mike Donnelly, Delegation Chairman, seconds the nomination for Daniel J. Hafer.
North Dakota.
Clarence Carroll, Department of North Dakota, on behalf of the North Dakota delegation, future home of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, we second the nomination of Daniel J. Hafer for National Commander.
Ohio.
Mr. Chairman, Charles Stennis, Delegate Chairman. The Buckeye State seconds the nomination for Daniel C. Hafer as National Commander.
Oklahoma.
Taylor Smith from the Department of Oklahoma, we proudly second the nomination of Daniel C. Hafer.
Oregon.
Flynn Phillips, the Oregon, seconds the nominations for the proud Navy chaplain of Daniel J. Hafer.
Pennsylvania.
I, Doug Church, Delegate Chairman of the Department of Pennsylvania, home of the past National Commander Ron Conley, do proudly nominate Daniel C. Hafer for the high office of National Commander.
Philippines.
Carl Nord, Department of the Philippines, second in nomination for Daniel Seahaver.
Puerto Rico.
Carmen Rosario, Chairman for the Delegation of Puerto Rico. We second the nomination of Daniel Seahaver.
Rhode Island.
Jim Weinrich, delegate for Department of Rhode Island, gladly seconds the nomination for Daniel J. Seahafer for the high office of National Commander.
South Carolina.
Mr. Adjutant, the great state of South Carolina, we proudly second the nomination for Dan Seahafer.
South Dakota.
NEC, Danny Brandon from the great state of South Dakota, home of Mount Rushmore and birthplace of the American Legion Baseball, proudly seconds the nomination of Daniel J. Seahafer for the high office of National Commander.
Tennessee.
Blaney Culver, Commander, Department of Tennessee, seconds the nominations for Daniel Seahafer.
Texas.
Jerry Hines, State Chair and head of the state that has the National Little League Champion baseball team, Texas. We second the nomination with pride of Captain Dan.
Utah.
Doug Case, Delegation Chair of Utah. We second the nomination of Daniel Seahafer for National Commander.
Vermont.
Tom Scanlon, duly elected Delegation Chair, is proud to second the nomination of Daniel Seahafer.
Virginia.
Rick Ortell, Delegation Chairman, Virginia, seconds the nomination for Daniel J. Seahafer.
West by God, Virginia.
The Mountaineers of West by God, Virginia, second the nomination of Daniel J. Seahafer for the high office of National Commander.
Wyoming.
Bill Barnes, Delegate. We second the motion for Daniel J. Seahafer.
Once again, Mississippi. Mr. Commander, that completes the roll call.
Thank you. I now recognize from the floor microphone number 1.
Mr. Commander, Mike Donnelly, delegate from North Carolina. Mr. Commander, I move that we suspend the rules of this convention pertaining to the election of National Commander and the nomination and election of the National Vice Commanders, which rules shall be reinstated at the conclusion of the election for the National Vice Commanders.
There is a motion before us to suspend the rules of this convention pertaining to the election of the National Commander and the nomination and election of National Vice Commanders, which rules shall be automatically reinstated at the conclusion of the election of National Vice Commanders. Is there a second? Hearing a second, this motion is non-debatable and requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried. I now recognize from the floor microphone number 2.
Mr. Commander, Lyndon Dixon, delegate from the state of Virginia. Mr. Commander, I move that the nominations for the office of National Commander be closed.
We have a motion that nominations for the office of National Commander be closed. Is there a second? Hearing a second, the motion to close nominations is a non-debatable motion and requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried. I now recognize from the floor microphone number 1.
Mr. Commander, David Brambilla, delegate from California. Mr. Commander, I move that the National Adjutant be authorized to cast one vote representing the entire delegate strength of this convention, and that Daniel J. Seahafer be elected National Commander by acclamation.
Is there a second? Hearing a second, there is a motion before us that the National Adjutant be authorized to cast one vote representing the entire delegate strength of this convention, and Daniel J. Seahafer be elected National Commander by acclamation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried. I now call on the National Adjutant.
Mr. Commander, as National Adjutant, I cast one vote representing the entire delegate strength of this convention for the election of Daniel J. Seehafer as National Commander of the American Legion.
I declare Daniel J. Seehafer elected National Commander of the American Legion. Will the Sergeant at Arms assist the new National Commander of the American Legion to the platform? He will be escorted to the stage by Department of Wisconsin National Executive Committeeman Robert L. Chappelle. The chair recognizes past National Commander Jake Comer for the purpose of administering the oath of office to the new National Commander of the American Legion.
Commander, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Daniel J. Seehafer,
I, Daniel J. Seehafer,
do solemnly pledge myself
do solemnly pledge myself
to perform faithfully and impartially
perform faithfully and impartially
the duties of the office of National Commander of the American Legion.
duties of the office of the National Commander of the American Legion.
I further pledge that I will support and defend
And I further pledge I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America,
and the National Constitution and bylaws of the American Legion.
the National Constitution and bylaws of the American Legion.
Also, I do not subscribe
Also, I do not subscribe
to the principles of any foreign government
to the principles of any foreign government
or group
opposed
to our form of government.
So help me God.
So help me God. Commander, may I be the first to congratulate
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2023-2024 National Commander of the American Legion, Daniel J. Seehafer.
So a lot of people ask me, you know, because when I say, hey, I'm Dan Seehafer, some will say, why don't you always say, I am Reverend Daniel Seehafer? Should I say that? Well, I just call me Dan. And don't call me late for supper either. Well, it started in Merrill, Wisconsin. That's my hometown where I was born and raised. And I was a child in the 1970s and in the 1980s. So my childhood, I think, was outstanding, in fact. It was in the 7th grade. I remember it plain as day, if it was yesterday. I was sitting in church listening to the sermon from one of my pastors, and I thought, you know, I could preach it this way, not being negative or anything, but I thought, you know, I could take that sermon this way. And from there, it was a love to say, hey, I think I'm leaning this direction. And it was at that time I thought, I'm going to be a pastor when I grow up. That I also had a professor who was a Navy chaplain. And I was really close to this professor. That professor instilled a love for serving in the military, which is something I wanted to do way back as well. And then the thing is that I could serve as a chaplain. So I could use the training that I had and go in as clergy. So that was very, very appealing to me. People knew us as the chaplains, you know, and chaplains kind of thing. And that motivated me. Don't raise your eyebrows when you say chaplains. Not with me and not with my buddy. I remember these gunnies, they motivated me by saying, you're not going to make it. Don't again tell this chaplain that I'm not going to make it. So, guess what? I made it. I was with them. Now, was it easy? I ain't gonna lie, it was tough. But I went through it all. I put that backpack on that was 70, 80 pounds. I did everything. But to make the long story short, after that training exercise, they wanted us to be at everything. And now I can talk to them. And so that's the importance of, you know, placing yourself, being that servant, having that servant attitude, that servant leadership. I like to bring that into the American Legion. I just got done with a service like this, and a member from my home post came up to me and said, would you like to be a member of the American Legion? And of course, my response was, what's that? But it was from that little invitation, that little seed, into now. So I went in, one of my very first positions was an adjutant in my post. I thought I could be a good secretary, you know, my typing skills, and but it's way more than that, way more than that to be an adjutant. But from there, I became a commander. From there, we added on to our post. There's many things that happened, but when I say from the chaplain point, that's when I went into the department, and that was my profession. So I put myself and plugged myself into the department. From there, they said, this guy needs to be the national chaplain. Well, it happened. It happened with Commander Jimmy Foster, and I was his chaplain for that year, and it was a great, great experience. When I come here too, I'm Dan, and I'm known just as Dan. I don't walk around like I own the place. Even though as you look here, I put every single piece of installation in this place, from right there all the way around, everything. I did it by myself. I'm proud of that. I wanted to. In fact, before the roof came, we have snow in Wisconsin, obviously, and before the roof came and the walls were up, it snowed here, and I shoveled this whole complete thing out. So, yeah, that's talking about servant leadership. I was here, busting tail, just like the rest of them. So, do I have investment in here? Absolutely, absolutely. Talking about family or the strength that I have, that is definitely my wife, Stacy. She works here as well. She's a kindergarten teacher and is outstanding at that profession. I'm glad that she's also a part of the family as well, a member of the auxiliary. And of course, I have children, my son, who graduated from high school now and is going off looking into the business sector. My daughter, Emma, and she has also graduated from the 8th grade level now. She's going to go into high school. So I would say this is a perfect time for me to take the lead of the American Legion, because I'm right off of those milestones. My idea of a successful year, and really the platform, is coming off of that Be the One. So the Be the One was really the seed being planted for this past year, and now I want to see that growth. Now, after my year, when we come back to that next convention in Louisiana, I want everybody to know what Be the One is all about. I truly believe that this organization impacts lives like no other. It changes lives, and it saves lives. That's very powerful, isn't it? And as I would always tag it, I would say it is personal, very personal. That's this organization.
Good morning, Legion family. To my fellow delegates out there, national officers, PNCs, and even the staff, as well as distinguished guests, obviously Team Wisconsin, my church back home, St. Stephen, Horicon, Wisconsin, and of course, my family, my wife Stacy, my mom Jean, my extended family who's also with us. And I also want to make a long-distance dedication, though, to my daughter who was in school, couldn't be here, the trip a little bit difficult for her. But anyway, let's say, hi, Emma. Hi, Emma. Thank you for that. This will go down in history for a long time, all right? But a big, heartfelt thank you for making this journey to National Commander a reality. Yes, a reality. From that very first Just Ask moment back in 1997 by Bill Kiekefer, a member of Post 157 Horicon and also a member of my congregation, to numerous mentors and leaders and friends, some who are still with us and others who are now in post everlasting. To that special moment when I became your national chaplain under the infamous Commander Jimmy Foster back in 2010. Right, Commander? And then concluding my department commander year back in July of 2017 with a resolution as Wisconsin's endorsed candidate for national commander. Yes, with various committee assignments chairing our important commissions along the way, and campaigning for 2 years. We are now here. And thank you. Yes. And a repeated question that comes to all leading candidates at this point of the journey is this, and I'm sure you said it too to me: are you ready? Well, the answer is a resounding yes. Yes, I am. You know, family, as I first entered the convention center as a candidate to now receiving the proper attire as your newly elected national commander, you might have noticed a theme streaming through the air: songs from the Rocky soundtrack. Now, it's not because I have this great love for boxing or somehow I'm just stuck in the 80s, but who doesn't like a little Rocky, right? However, as I came across an article from the Washington Times last year, it left me with mixed emotions and questions like, what's happening to America? What's going on? Where's the love for God and country? Jennifer Harper wrote, "An attack on the U.S. homeland would bring out the fight in most Americans, according to a new poll, but a surprisingly large percentage say they'd flee." So Americans were asked if they were in the same position as Ukrainians are now, would they stay and fight or leave the country? The results, a majority, 55%, say they would stay and fight, while 38% say they would leave the country. Yes, a majority would stay, but 38%? 38% of Americans would leave? So let's bring some of that concept into our family. Does it matter that we are the largest wartime veterans organization? Does it? Does it matter that we have Congress's ear and are invited to the table when it comes to the relevant veteran issues? Does it matter that we still have all of our programs intact, up and running, even making them better and stronger than before, instead of cutting them due to budget constraints? More importantly, do you see the relevance in those statements? And do you, especially our leaders, have that desire and hunger to keep it this way? Or would you flee? Basically, instead of learning from history and actually building upon it, that we would simply shrug our shoulders and mumble, well, you know, those were the good old days. For example, while historians rightfully give President Roosevelt high remarks for his compassion toward the working class and downtrodden, his early administration was not what we would consider, let's say, veteran-friendly. At our national convention back a few years, let's go back to 1933 just for a moment. FDR said this, and I quote, "No person because he wore a uniform must thereafter be placed in a special class of beneficiaries over and above other citizens," unquote. You see, what he failed to understand is that veteran status is not a royal title that people receive at birth. It's a status that is earned. Yes, earned by people like you and me, who are willing to die for their country. Clearly, World War II changed the president's thinking on a matter as he signed the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, just more than 2 weeks after the first wave of those troops of ours, how they stormed then the beaches of Normandy. And we certainly know the primary author of that vision, don't we? Actually, the handwritten copy of that first draft is underneath a glass display case in our endowment room at National Headquarters. 3rd floor, I just might add. But you see, family, PNC Comery understood that it was right for America to remember returning war veterans by making it possible for them to obtain college educations, business and farm loans, and purchase homes. Though everyone loves the GI Bill today, it was certainly not a slam dunk at the time. Remember, all that glitters is not gold was the headline of an open letter from leaders of other veteran organizations opposing an early version of the legislation. Now, to be fair, the GI Bill was indeed expensive. The $14.5 billion total spent for education and $20 per week for 52 weeks of unemployment, that pay, that was no pittance. That cost, however, paled in comparison to the higher tax revenue gained from an educated working class. And then a housing boom resulting for millions of homeowners. When the initial GI Bill period ended back in 1956, get this, 7.8 million out of 15.4 million veterans had enrolled in an education or training program. The bottom line, communities as well as universities all over our great land owe their very existence to this bill. And it has been estimated as well that the GI Bill returned $7 to the economy for every dollar of cost. 7 to 1. And who made that possible? From the vision to the enormous support, that hunger and that fire in the belly, the American Legion. Talk about being personal. Talk about being relevant. And family, our involvement, that powerful voice of ours, continues today. So will you rise up to the challenge and follow me on this? To follow me as we together embark upon a new mission? In fact, when it comes to membership, specifically, I'm calling it Operation Eye of the Tiger. Eye of the Tiger. For it is about family. It's about having, once again, that fire in the belly and knowing the relevance of who we are and what we can give to our communities, to our states, to our nation. And hey, why not? Let's have a little fun too. And yet, family, this isn't just about numbers. Not with me. Never with me. It's about people. Our fellow veterans and their families, and yes, even you. You who are right here listening now, and also those who are watching. That's why with you, we will make this year a transformational one for the American Legion family, with special focus on servant leadership, having competence and character and commitment. I truly believe we are at the forefront of rediscovering value proposition of membership and legislative together, and the greater good that we, the Legion, brings to America by building more informed and civically engaged citizens, for it should not end at boy state or girl state. And family, we're starting to see some of the metrics of this too. Compared to last year, we have more grassroots messages sent and over 500 congressional contact report forms submitted. That's why I am not letting this progress go unnoticed or letting it wither on the vine. As I addressed last year's membership workshop, we responded with 8,000 messages to Congress in over just a weekend. and then adding an additional 15,000 within a week or so, and going over that 30,000 threshold to support the PACT Act. So yes, it can be done. It has to be done. But let's make it tenfold. With more grassroots campaigns, Zoom meetings, webinars, trainings. For this can really be the difference between life and death. Think of it. Again, personal? Relevant? Absolutely. This is who we are. This is the American Legion. And family, this leads me to my last point, but our top priority, and that's the prevention of veteran suicide. The numbers are all over the place, but I believe the numbers tend to be, let's say, undercounted. Again, learning from history, going back to 1922, the New York Times reported that 2 veterans a day, 2, were taking their own lives. Now, given the horrors of World War I find that number suspiciously low. VA has released figures a couple years ago of about 17 per day, but that doesn't include active duty deaths. Last year, a joint study between America's Warrior Partnership, Duke University, and the University of Alabama contended that it could be more than double that. Double! The researchers said many drug overdoses were classified as accidents or unknown intent as to the cause. Those studies are constant with what a veteran told a member of our staff. After losing his own son to veteran suicide, the Army veteran said that if he were to take his own life, he would try to make it look accidental so his family could still receive life insurance benefits. It's for people in those situations, veterans with suicidal ideations, that we have created our own initiative. Be the one. Be the one. My 23-24 theme, a theme that started with you, Brother Triola, Commander. As we continue then to invest our time and our resources to destigmatize the act of getting help, for it's okay to ask for help. It's okay not to be okay. That's why with all this talk about numbers on this very subject, the only number I want us to push now is this. 1. 1 as be the one. Be the one to save one. Yes, one veteran, even the spouse, from taking his or her own life. And remember, family, we are not doing this out of the love for racing per se, even though new fans have been created. And the driver of our own Be the One car, Alex Palou, is kicking some serious tail in the series. I think it's going to be a championship year. But how awesome it is to actually partner with Chip Ganassi and his IndyCar racing team as Together, we raise that public awareness about the ongoing crisis of veteran suicide and actually doing something about it. And that is saving lives, right? One at a time, because after all, it's personal, very personal. Therefore, we all have a place in this God-given guided journey, all of us. But it does require work. To love and care for veterans is not easy. To keep improving the quality and access of care for veterans is, again, not easy. That's why my project for this upcoming year is to open wide our hearts with financial support for the American Legion Veterans and Children Foundation, VCF. This foundation supports families who are in crisis. as well as disabled veterans and service officers, yes, I might add, who provide free representation. No cost. That's what we do. And family, this is who we really are, for it is our mission. Yes, our mission to care and to serve as we veterans strengthen America in the process, and we are certainly not alone. Yes, our living God brought us together for this very purpose, and where there is a purpose, there is relevance. For the Legion is something more than a veterans organization to promote reunions and social gatherings. It's something more than an organized effort to solely get something out of the government for service rendered. Rather, the American Legion is dedicated to the high purposes of putting something into the government, into our nation, because of that zealous desire to continue to serve after the uniform has been laid away. So, family, I now ask you, are you ready? I thought you would say that, all right? So then let's roll up our sleeves. An eye of the tiger, it shall be. Let's make our voice even more powerful. And those who are watching and listening who are not yet members, join us. Please join us. And join us today, for membership does matter. It really does. But especially join us with that God-given purpose and relevance to save and change lives. Yes, strengthening America, a brother and sister at a time. So be the one. Let's be the one. And family, don't stop. Let's never stop. Never. Thank you so much for this privilege and this opportunity to serve you as your national commander. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a point of personal privilege, I would like to call on Mary Ludwig, wife of past National Commander Daniel Ludwig, for a presentation by the first spouses to the new First Lady of the American Legion.
Stacy, behind you stands the spouses of the past national commanders. We're here to support you, to wish you well, but most of all, continue as the newest First Lady. I've got my glasses in my hands. I know. And I forgot to put them on.
Great, thank you so very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I now recognize microphone number 2.
Mr. Commander, Kimberly Biggerstaff, delegate from the great state of Texas. Mr. Commander, since the rules of this convention have been suspended, I move that nominations for the office of National Commander be made from the floor of this convention. National Vice Commander.
Thank you. There is a motion before us that nominations for the office of National Vice Commander be made from the floor. Hearing a second, do I have a second? The motion is non-debatable and requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We will now entertain nominations for the office of National Vice Commander from the floor. I now recognize microphone number 1.
Mr. Commander, Melvin Weaver, delegate from Georgia. Mr. Commander, I request that you recognize Randy Goodman for the purpose of a nomination for the office of National Vice Commander.
Request approved.
National Commander Triola, national officers, past national commanders, delegates, alternates, and guests to this 104th convention. It is indeed an honor for me to be here to nominate Robert Mark Shreve for the high office of National Vice Commander of the American Legion. Legionnaire Robert Mark Shreve honorably served more than 22 years in defense of our nation in the United States Army, culminating as a law enforcement operations manager. He served tours of duty in Europe, South Korea, Southeast Asia, and various units within the United States. For the past 18 years, Mark continued to serve America through his involvement in the American Legion. He has served Harris County Post 189 as Commander, Senior Vice Commander, Finance Officer, and Adjutant, where 100% membership is constant each year. As District Commander, he led the way in formalizing a strategic plan for sustained membership growth in the district posts by conducting regional training within his district and being actively engaged in the use of mylegion.org. As a result, the 3rd District of Georgia achieved Race to the Top recognition 2 consecutive years, and Commander Shreve was awarded the Georgia Department Legionnaire of the Year. During his tenure as District Commander, the Department of Georgia also achieved 100% membership and a #2 ranking nationally. Legionnaire Shreve has served the Department of Georgia as Vice Commander, Membership Chairman, and Commander. He was also instrumental in establishing the framework of our current Georgia Legion College. He is currently Chairman of the American Legion Department of Georgia Medical Research Foundation. Mark has served the national organization as a member of the Veterans Affairs and Rehabilitation Council, Veterans Employment and Veteran Preference Committee, American Legion College instructor, as subject matter expert presenter at our national conventions for new district commanders. After serving in the Army, Mark became an operations manager with AFLAC Worldwide Headquarters in Columbus, Georgia. AFLAC Worldwide Headquarters recognized Mark as Volunteer of the Year, where he was granted a $10,000 award to a charity of his choice. Mark chose the American Legion Department of Georgia VA Hospital Special Support Project. From this support project, monetary donations help provide comfort items and support for veterans and their families at VA facilities in Georgia and nearest out-of-state VA facilities. Mark is a 2016 National Legion College graduate and holds a bachelor's degree from West Virginia University and an associate's degree from St. Louis St. Leo University. Mark and his wife Robin have 2 sons, Robbie and Matthew. I, Randy Goodman, a duly registered delegate to this convention, have the honor and pleasure to place in nomination for the office of National Vice Commander for the year 2023-2024, Robert Mark Shreve, representing the great state of Georgia.
I now recognize microphone #2.
Mr. Commander, Jeremy Ehart, delegate from Kansas. Mr. Commander, I request that you recognize Paul Sanford for the purpose of a nomination for the office of National Vice Commander.
Request approved.
Good morning. Commander Trujillo, Adjutant Wheeler, delegates and guests, it is my pleasure
and distinct honor to place the name of Raymond L. Vale for National Vice Commander of the American Legion for the year 2023 and 2024. Vale joined the U.S. Army in January of 1964. He was stationed in West Germany in the 7th Army 1st Infantry Maintenance Battalion as an infantry field radio repairman. He was awarded the Detachment Soldier of the Month and graduated from the 7th Army NCO Academy in February 1966. He completed his enlistment in November 1966 with an honorable discharge at the rank of E5. He joined the American Legion in 1986 and is a paid-up-for-life member of Lon M. Helm Jr. Post number 182 in Arma, Kansas. He served on many post positions, including post commander for 3 years. At the district level, he served as 3rd District Vice Commander and District Commander in 2012 and 2013. At the department level, he was Master at Arms in 2013 and 14, Department Vice Commander in 2014 and 15, and elected to the Kansas Department Commander in 2015. He was elected alternate National Executive Committeeman in 2020 and served till now. He has served as a member of the Department Cadet Law Academy and the Oratorical and Scholarship Committee, a member of the National Security Commission and Foreign Relations Committee. He served on the Arma City Council from 2013 to 2020. He retired in 2020 after working 34 years in the pet food and can manufacturing industry. In August of 2000, he started a home repair and maintenance business, running that until 2016. He is married to his wife, Linda, since December 1970. Together they have 4 boys, 6 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. He enjoys playing golf, doing crafts, and refurbishing vintage tools. Again, my name is Paul Sanford, a registered delegate from the Department of Kansas, and it is my distinct honor to place in nomination my good friend Raymond L. Vale from the Department of Kansas for the high office of National Vice Commander. Thank you.
I recognize microphone number 1.
Mr. Commander, Alan Dunn, Delegation Chair from Louisiana. I request that you recognize past Department Commander Herbie Petit for the purpose of a nomination for the office of National Vice Commander.
Request approved.
Good morning. Mr. Commander, distinguished guests, fellow delegates, I am Harry Petit, National Chairman on a Committee of Children and Youth, and I have the honor and privilege to place the name of Charles D. Oquin of Westlake Post 370 from the Department of Louisiana for nomination of office of National Vice Commander for the American Legion 2023-24. Charlie has been an outstanding member of the American Legion for 52 years. To serve as National Vice Commander, Charlie will utilize his knowledge, his experience, his confidence, and his leadership that he gained on all levels of this great organization. He has held most positions, including area commander, 2 commander on the post, district, and department levels. Charlie has served in various committees and commissions on our national level, both as a member and as chairman at various times. Here is a short scenario. Charlie has been a dedicated National Executive Committeeman for the Department of Louisiana since 2005. NEC Liaison to Children and Youth Commission, NEC Liaison to Veterans Employment and Education, NEC Liaison to Internal Affairs, also appointed to the Ad Hoc Committee to study department and posts outside the United States. Excuse me. NEC Subcommittee on committees, presently serving as chairman. Charlie has been appointed by 3 governors to serve on the Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs. He has also served as our National Sergeant at Arms in 1994-95 under our very own past National Commander, Bill Detweiler. You will find Charlie to have a passionate spirit. He will be a dedicated National Vice Commander. As an honorably discharged Navy veteran, Charlie will always hold the honor of his fellow veterans close to his heart. In closing, I, Herbie Petit, delegate from the Department of Louisiana, place in nomination Charles D. Oquan for the high office of National Vice Commander of the American Legion 2023-24. Thank you.
I now recognize microphone number 2.
Mr. Commander, Bob Dion, delegate from the Department of New Hampshire, the Live Free or Die state. Mr. Commander, I request that you recognize Bill Beiser for the purpose of a nomination for the office of National Vice Commander.
Request approved.
Commander, past national commanders, distinguished guests, fellow Legionnaires. I'm Bill Beiser from Henry J. Sweeney Post 2, Department of New Hampshire. Quite a while ago, I was asked, can you give some remarks regarding Bill Roy's nomination for National Vice Commander? And I said, I can't do that. I know him too well. But I relented. The other day, chatting with PNC Morin about this, he said, you know Bill pretty well? I said, yes, I do. And he said, then maybe you better bend the truth a little bit and give a respectable nomination instead of what you really want to say. But anyway, I thought, not having done this before, of a few characteristics to mention about my friend Bill Roy. As far as loyalty, Bill will engage with any veteran, Legionnaire or not, where he can provide advice or steer the individual to a source of assistance. He then goes into follow-up mode to ensure the mission gets accomplished. He's been active around our state for so long, most Legionnaires know they can phone Bill Roy when faced with any issue with which they're struggling. As for motivation, there isn't a Legion program out there where I've seen Bill not fully tuned in, ready to organize, ready to assist, ready to lead. During this convention, I've observed Bill talking with red hats, blue hats, white hats he's known for years. I'm convinced he's pumped up and really psyched about carrying out his duties this coming year. He's going to be a tiger. Regarding his personal energy, on most days, Bill is the first one at the post for his daily adjutant chores. At least once a week, he's at BJ's loading his truck with baked goods for delivery to elderly, enclosed people, Liberty House, which is a veterans rehab center, and other folks in need. When our honor guard needs another body to fire an M1 Garand, Bill always answers the call. He always has time for that. He attends every possible district meeting, business or social, and never misses a department function. In short, his energy seems boundless. Next, I thought about knowledge. Be it during an official meeting, or at a committee or a convention break, or just during a post-meeting chat at the bar. I've seen nobody with the depth and breadth of Legion current or historical events than Bill Roy has. Perhaps the most important of the characteristics I considered is leadership. Bill is the only one, at least over my 45 years with the Legion, to twice run for and be elected department commander. There were no emergency officer or other situations to prompt this, just his affection for the Legion and the Department of New Hampshire. Talk about shouldering the burden. He's the guy. In my view, there might be another Legionnaire in New Hampshire who would be a good national vice commander. Maybe. But given Bill's vast experience and proven competencies, I can think of no one better prepared for this role. Accordingly, it is my distinct honor to place the name of Bill Roy of New Hampshire, the Live Free or Die state, into nomination for National Vice Commander. Thank you.
I now recognize microphone number 1.
Mr. Commander, Doug Case, Chair Delegate from Utah. Mr. Commander, I request that you recognize Terry Scow for the purpose of a nomination for the office of National Vice Commander.
Your request is approved.
National Commander, distinguished guests, fellow Legionnaires, on behalf of the Western Caucasus and Utah, home of my dear friend Bill Christopherson, it's such an honor to nominate Randy Edwards. Randy is a go-to guy in Utah. The Daughters of the American Revolution recognized him with their National Veterans Volunteer of the Year. That's a high honor. He's our chair for the 1919 project in Utah. He's served at the Post, District, Area, Department, and National, serving on Americanism. He was instrumental in getting a Veterans Court started in Utah County. Veterans courts make a difference in the lives of veterans. He's served in the United States Army, including tours with Special Forces, served in Panama, speaks Spanish. So if you need him to go to Puerto Rico, he's ready. He's a retired Command Sergeant Major, having 38 years of service in the United States Army. He's a Lutheran by religious background, and so as a result, I'm sure that he will help Commander Dan do the Lord's work, looking after veterans across this country. It is my high honor to nominate Randy Edwards for the office of Vice Commander. Thank you.
I now recognize microphone 2.
Mr. Commander, Janice Gravely, Delegate from New York. Mr. Commander, I move that the nominations for the office of National Vice Commander be closed.
We have a motion that nominations for the office of National Vice Commander be closed. Is there a second? Hearing a second, the motion is non-debatable and requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So carried. The chair recognizes microphone number 1.
Mr. Commander, Charles Stennis, Delegate from the Buckeye State of Ohio. Mr. Commander, I move that the National Adjutant be authorized to cast one vote 5 times for the entire delegate strength of this convention, and that the 5 candidates, Robert Mark Shreve, Ray Vail, Charles D. Accoon, William Roy, Randy Edwards, be elected National Vice Commander by acclamation.
We have a motion that the National Adjutant be authorized to cast one vote 5 times for the entire delegate strength of this convention, and that the nominated 5 candidates, Robert Mark Shreve, Raymond L. Vail, Charles D. Akun, Bill Roy, and Randy D. Edwards, be elected National Vice Commanders by acclamation. Is there a second? Hearing a second, the motion is non-debatable and requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So carried. I now call on the National Adjutant.
Mr. Commander, as National Adjutant of the American Legion, I cast 1 vote 5 times, with each representing the entire delegate strength of this convention for Robert Mark Shreve, Raymond L. Vail, Charles D. Akwan, Bill Roy, and Randy D. Edwards for the office of National Vice Commander of the American Legion.
I declare Robert Mark Shreve, Raymond L. Vail, Charles D. Akwan, Bill Roy, and Randy D. Edwards as elected National Vice Commanders of the American Legion. Will the new National Vice Commanders come to the platform to be introduced and sworn in? Robert Mark Shreve, Raymond L. Vail, Charles D. Akwan, Bill Roy, and Randy D. Edwards. Please give them a round of applause. At this time, I am honored to swear you into your newly elected office as a National Vice Commander. I know you will uphold the trust that has been placed in you by the comrades who nominated and supported you, and the convention delegates that elected you. I trust you will fulfill every obligation required of you. I challenge you to familiarize yourselves with the duties of your office and carry them out with the same spirit from which the American Legion was founded. The welfare, success, and integrity of this great organization depends on you as you travel into departments and throughout this country promoting the mandates of the American Legion, as approved by the National Convention and the National Executive Committee. It is your duty to protect the good name of the American Legion with the people of our great nation that you meet as you travel. Help them to know the Legion's purposes and policies. Remember the 4 pillars that motivate us as members to serve this nation. As you serve, always remember there is no rank, for we all serve as equals. We are all aiming for the same goals, the ideals of justice, freedom, democracy, and loyalty. This means you should always employ the cardinal principles of the American Legion to all those that we serve. The rehabilitation of all disabled veterans and the care of those who are now suffering from wounds, disease, and want to include the care of their family members. The education of our children, educating citizens on the ideals of true Americanism, maintaining a strong national defense. In your travels representing the American Legion, always practice these 4 pillars, your promotion of service to the community, state, and nation. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, state your name, do solemnly pledge myself to perform faithfully and impartially the duties of the office of the American Legion I am about to assume. And I further pledge I will uphold the principles outlined in the National Constitution and the preamble of the American Legion, in service to our veterans and their families, their communities, state, and nation. I further pledge that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, and that I do not subscribe to the principles of any foreign government or group opposed to our form of government. So help me God. Congratulations, hands down. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a big round of applause for your newly elected National Vice Commanders. I now call on past National Commander Jimmy Foster to present the colors to our incoming National Commander.
Thank you, Mr. Commander. Commander-elect Seehafer, will you please join me here at the lectern? Legionnaires and distinguished guests, please rise for the presentation of our national colors by the Newport Harbor Post 291, Department of California, to the National Commander-elect. Color Guard, present the colors of the new National Commander of the American Legion.
Color Guard, forward, march!
Hand salute.
Ready, face!
Two. Commander, you already heard from past National Commander Rick Santos. They like for past National Commanders to use the script to make sure that we stay online. But you are the third person on my team to obtain the level of National Commander. First was Bill Oxford from North Carolina. Second was James Triola from New York. And now you're up here for number 3. I think I had a great crew. That's just my personal opinion. As you stand before this convention, having received the unanimous vote of confidence in our ability to represent not only Legionnaires, but also all American veterans in the coming months. As a veteran, I know you're up to the challenge. You have served the American Legion in numerous capacities over the many years. You have the experience and the knowledge to lead the organization. I know, and the delegates know, that you are the right leader at the right time to carry out our organizations forward for the next year. You served the country as a Navy veteran, and you served your community and your church. You truly epitomize for God and the church and the community. Both as a pastor and a leader of veterans, your election was earned through hard work and service, just like your predecessors. May the colors that we present to you be a source of inspiration and pride. National Commander Seehafer, God bless you and our American Legion as you lead us forward in the coming year. Congratulations. Thank you, Mother. If you're not standing, please do. Color Guard, return the colors of the National Commander of the American Legion to their posts.
Color Guard, forward, march!
Ready? 2. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
This is an exciting time for any national convention. We have elected a new national commander and look forward to our next chapter as a new leadership team is installed at the top of all segments of the American Legion family. This is also the time when the American Legion Auxiliary elects a new president. The woman chosen to lead the American Legion Auxiliary has worked many years for veterans and their families. She served as the organization's national vice president and is a member of American Legion Auxiliary Unit 57 in Alaska. Born in Southern California, she moved to Fairbanks at age 7. She has called the last frontier state home ever since. She could never be accused of being a fair-weather president. She is twice eligible for the American Legion Auxiliary through the military service of her father, Ray Allington, and her son, Kyle, who serves in the Alaska National Guard. The new president is an American Legion Rider. She is committed to fully embracing the American Legion Be the One initiative. Please give a warm welcome to National President of the American Legion Auxiliary, Lisa Williamson.
Is it morning still? Good morning, just barely. Good morning, all. When I was asked why I do what I do, I thought it'd be easy enough. Would all the veterans here please rise? All you active service members, please rise. You are why I do what I do, all of you. You are why what the American Legion Auxiliary does what we do as a family. And I thank you very much for that. Commander Triola did mention that my platform this year will be embracing the Be the One initiative as we all concentrate on the military and veteran suicide epidemic. So I'm hoping that together the impact as a family will make us have great success. So I thank you, all of you. I thank you all. I've been taught one thing: be brief, be good, and be gone. Thank you.
The man chosen to lead the Sons of the American Legion is eligible through World War II service of his grandfather, Ed Hall. A youth coach for 25 years, he is passionate about making young people feel welcome in the organization. He has taught classes at Sons conventions and meetings for the last several years and organized the first ever youth room at a Sons of the American Legion National Convention in 2019. He is a member of Glen Burnie Squadron 40 in Maryland and has served at every level of the Sons. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the National Commander of the Sons of the American Legion, Donald Lee Hall, Jr.
Good morning. Good morning, Commander, past commanders, delegates, my heroes, our veterans. It's a great honor to be here with you to bring greetings from over 375,000 Sons of the American Legion. We just finished up our convention, and I was so honored to come in to represent my grandfather, Ed Hall's service in the Army during World War II. You, being veterans, and my grandfather is what gave me my slogan this year, representing more than me. I'm a member of the Sons because I represent his service. All the Sons, I ask them on Sunday to look back and make sure they did soul searching for the reason that they are doing what they do. We all represent someone else's service. All the American Legion does, the auxiliary, same as the Sons, and all of our veterans represent your family, your departments, your detachments, as long as your post and your home squadron. But the veterans are why I do what I do. Your service is appreciated. I want to say thank you, and you still matter. I thank you for your commitment to our country. I thank you for your commitment to your post and to the Legion family. I look forward this year to serving with Commander Dan Seehafer and President Lisa Williamson. A couple weeks ago, I was with Dan, and he gave that fiery speech about the Eye of the Tiger. They played the song, and when he walked off the stage, I was singing it. And then I got a chance to speak, and I came up, I said, did you hear the words of the song? Because listen, it starts off with rising up back in the streets. Legion family, that's what we got to do. We got to get out of our post, back in the streets. That's where the membership will come from. That's where we got to tell our story on what we're about. We're not about sitting in a bar drinking a beer. We're about doing things for our veterans, our community, and our children. I believe strongly in the 4 pillars of the American Legion. This year I've made a commander's challenge for the Blue Cap members, for the squadrons, to give $1 to OCW, CWF, Boy State and their department, and have a blood drive, and that squadron can become a 4-pillar squadron. That's what we're supposed to be about, supporting the 4 pillars and the American Legion family. I don't want to take up too much time. I want to thank you for having me here today. I hope everybody's had a great convention. I love the American Legion. I love the American Legion family. I love the USA. God bless the USA, God bless our military, and God bless the American Legion family. Thank you.
Commander Hall, please remain with us for a few moments. Also, National Commander Seehafer and National President Williamson, please join us at the lectern. Ladies and gentlemen, National Commander Seehafer, National President Williamson, and Sons of the American Legion National Commander Hall, your American Legion family leaders. I now call upon Parliamentarian Vincent Gahn of Illinois for the purpose of a technical motion.
Mr. Commander, Vincent Jim Triola, as a delegate to the 104th National American Legion Convention, I make a technical motion and move that the National Adjutant be instructed to review the minutes of this convention and make any necessary corrections without changing the intent, and proceed to edit to distribute those minutes.
It's been moved and seconded. Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded for the adjutant to be instructed to review the minutes of the convention and make any necessary technical corrections without changing intent, and to proceed and distribute those minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So carried. National Adjutant, have you any announcements?
A pair of reading glasses was found at the National Commander's Banquet, either in the hall or at the reception. If you think they are yours, you can come to room 219 at the conclusion of this convention, and I'll have them for you. The post-convention NEC meeting will occur in the Charlotte Convention Center, room 219, sections A through D, meeting level, immediately following adjournment. All new national officers are to attend. Thank you.
Please uncover as National Chaplain Antel offers the benediction.
Let us pray. As we conclude this family reunion of the American Legion family, we leave to carry on the message of Be the One, as well as the myriad of other issues involving our great nation. From every post across our nation, from Caribou, Maine to Key West, Florida, from San Diego, California to Bellingham, Washington, from El Paso, Texas to International Falls, every post, we stand united. We thank you for the many folks that work at our national headquarters and in Washington, D.C. Bless our people as we leave this convention, that you would provide us, O God, with safety. To belong the glory, pro Deo et Patria. Now, may the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. Amen.
Amen. Sergeant at Arms, retire the POW MIA flag. Thank you. Cover. The color guard will retire the flag of the United States. The delegates will stand in hand salute on my command.
Color guard, forward, march.
Hand salute.
Present. Colors. Ready. 2. Take. Colors. Assemble. March.
Ready? 2. The time is 12:19. I now declare this 104th Annual National Convention of the American Legion adjourned.